But Two Black and sent me something. Apparently, he started messing with Chat GPT and ended up encouraged and was looking at what the Chat GPT was saying about a variety of things. And he sent me a couple things, and then I did the same. All right. And I just want to share you a little bit of what came back from that and why. So and the short of it is I asked him, he started sending me texts with screenshots. And I did the same similar thing. And I'll let Two Black and Black Miss, I think I'm hoping, encouraging maybe that they're gonna build something off of this on their own. But just when I ran it just a little bit, I ended up asking Two Black, I said, so I'm gonna have to debate Chat GPT now. And he ended up saying, yeah. And what it is, so what AI, so again, I'm obviously no expert, but what AI is clearly doing, and this is about my argument that technology does not revolutionize social relationships, it enhances existing social relationships and relationships of power in particular. So all that this seems to be happening is that this AI is perfectly, it reminds me of the white kids I went to grad school with in at Cornell. They're not impressive beyond their ability to recite and recount established, sanctioned knowledge. And that's what we have here with Chat GPT. So I don't know if this is in order, but in response so initially, let's see. I asked, as did Two Black. I asked Chat GPT, what is buying power? Buying power refers to the amount of money or financial resources that an individual or group has available to spend on goods and services. So actually, part of that answer, I mean, that answer is exactly right. Because as I keep saying, it's a measurement of what is available to spend on goods and services that Black people and others do not own. It is the ability to purchase products or services with money that one has. Again, I don't have a problem with that as a basic understanding, because it's only a measurement of what you have as available, or what they want to think you have as available to spend. All right. Buying power is influenced by various factors such as income, savings, debt, and access to credit. Actually, that part is false, because buying power, as I've shown, is a concoction of a formula and a methodology that is unclear and flawed. Both unclear, and to the extent it is clear, entirely flawed and wrong. And its own sources, as I continue to demonstrate, don't acknowledge the sources used by the sources claiming buying power is and producing the numbers themselves disavow what is being used of their own. So that is, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has said, when Nielsen and Selig and these other folks use our work to make these claims, they're doing something we're not doing, and they're wrong. Okay. Buying power is influenced by various factors. It is an important economic indicator that is used by businesses and marketers to understand consumer behavior and makes decisions about pricing, advertising, and product development. So on the other hand, I'm saying they're right again. This actually is a proper understanding of what it is that it is an important economic indicator for businesses and marketers to understand consumer behavior, to make decisions about pricing, advertising, and product development. It is not meant to measure the actual economic condition or power of anybody. The buying power of a particular group or demographic can also have significant social implications, as it influences the allocations of resources and distribution of wealth in society, is what the rest of that sentence says. Then I asked specifically about Black buying power. Black buying power refers to the amount of money or financial resources that Black people have available to spend on goods and services. So again, it's more or less correct. It is an important economic indicator. Now, here's where it starts to fall into its own mythology. It is an important economic indicator that reflects the economic strength and potential of the Black community. No, that's false. According to various reports, not cited here, the buying power of Black Americans. By the way, when I asked what the sources were, the top two, and I don't think I have it captured here, but the top two sources it mentions are Nielsen and the Selig Center. According to the various reports, the buying power of Black Americans has been steadily increasing over the years, with estimates ranging from 1.3 trillion to 3.9 trillion in 2020. Obviously, that's not what happens. This represents a significant market opportunity for businesses and marketers who are looking to tap into this growing consumer segment. That part, again, we're back to the accuracy of what it is. However, it is important to note that buying power alone does not necessarily translate into economic or social empowerment, as it is influenced by various factors such as income inequality, systemic racism, and access to resources and opportunities. So in some ways, ChatGPT follows established order of thought, and in other ways, it is an advance. So then I did like what Two Black did, and I said, but Jared Ball says it's wrong. And this is what ChatGPT said. Jared Ball, a media scholar and professor, has argued that the concept of Black buying power is a myth. He argues that the idea of Black buying power is based on a flawed understanding of economics and consumer behavior, and that it ignores the structural inequalities and systemic racism that limit the economic opportunities and resources available to Black people. That's pretty good. Except that I'm also contending that buying power as a concept is itself a myth, because the claims are based on total incomes of the population as what is theoretically totally available for marketers and advertisers to attract as business. It is not in any real, and the number itself is fraudulently arrived at beyond it being a reference to the total income of the entire population. Ball contends that the focus on Black buying power distracts from the need for systemic change and collective action to address the root causes of economic inequality and racial injustice. True. While there is some validity to Ball's critique, it is important to note that the concept of Black buying power is still a useful tool, is still a useful economic indicator that can inform business and marketing strategies, as long as it is not used to obscure or ignore the structural inequalities and systemic racism that impact economic opportunities and resources available to Black people. So maybe I don't have to debate ChatGPT, because honestly, that is that's as accurate as anyone has been in trying to describe my argument, I think. Because it says it does have value to businesses and marketers, but that's all it's ever had value to, as long as you don't try to replace it for everything else. So ChatGPT is maybe AI can take over or should take over. So I got sent this after our discussion with Dr. Burrows. I got sent a note. And I don't know that they want to be known publicly for this, so I'm not going to say their name, but I really appreciate that they sent me this note. And there was a question about what I had said about Dr. King and buying power, and with Dr. Burrows, and we were talking about debating and having a little argument about what we were thinking King's actual goals and efforts were. And it was brought up that I said King was against Black, that King had explicitly said buying Black and banking Black don't work. And where do we go from here, chaos or community? So I was sent a quote from that book that, so I'm not going to, well, I'll just bring it up here. I'll just share. So the question was, they sent me a quote from where in the book Dr. King does mention in passing, and maybe I'll come back and do this more properly another time, but I'll just do it quickly and insufficiently here. If you read Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community, there's a section where he's being critical of Black power while trying to explain why he's seen it rise. So he's saying, look, I get why it's becoming more popular, but it's flawed in a number of areas, including its nihilism, its pessimism, its it's lack of hope. And he was saying you have to have hope in struggle. And in passing, he makes reference to buying power of Black people. And he says that Black people have $30 billion in income, which represents a buying power that can be used. And then he moves on. So they sent me that statement and said, but didn't he say we have buying power? And I said, well, as I've said, and I'll just read here what I wrote in response. Thank you. First, MLK, like many, misunderstood what buying power is, and in fact did hear what many do, and in fact did hear, that is, and where do we go from here, what most do by attaching it to the total income of the Black community. I've said so much about why this is wrong, the short of it being that what power can a community really have when its entire income is counted as power, only to the extent that it can be extracted and spent on products owned by whites. So he is just wrong there. But he is only making the point in passing. Same with boycotts and his attempt to create, in his attempt to critique Black power. What he says a few pages later is what I think is more important to focus on, and where he is exactly right. And what he says a few pages later in that same section of Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community, in fact, on page 51 of the Kindle edition, is, quote, while there must be a continued emphasis on the need for Blacks to pool their economic resources and withdraw consumer support from discriminating firms, we must not be oblivious to the fact that the larger economic problems confronting the Negro community will only be solved by federal programs involving billions of dollars. However much we pool our resources and buy Black, this cannot create the multiplicity of new jobs and provide the number of low-cost houses that will uplift the Negro out of the economic depression caused by centuries of deprivation. Neither can our resources supply quality integrated education. All of this requires billions of dollars, which only an alliance of liberal labor civil rights forces can stimulate. In short, the Negro's problem cannot be solved unless the whole of American society takes a new turn toward greater economic justice, end quote. So that's why I keep saying people misrepresent and misunderstood both the concept of buying power and what King was himself advocating. And when Maggie Anderson in particular and others truncate him and disingenuously interpret him, they do so only to promote this idea that Black capitalism will work.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.